Hi, I wanted to record a video, but I don't want to show my face because I feel really unwell. So I thought I'd just record audio and then I'll put some kind of image over it at some point. But people that have known me for a long time, particularly people that have known me all my life, and will know that I've had a lot of health issues, like from childhood, basically with epilepsy and later on chronic fatigue, where I spent extended periods with such severe chronic fatigue syndrome, like symptoms, that I was bedbound for a 2-year period. I was wheelchair bound for a really extended period. Other symptoms, bowel issues, muscle spasms, in recent years, intermittent loss of vision, which was put down to diabetes. So my vision would deteriorate quite rapidly to the point where I couldn't really see very well at all. It was very blurry and distorted. The biggest writing on an eye test chart I could not read. And like I said, initially that was put down to problems with fluid behind my eyes because of diabetes. That was later found out that that wasn't the case, because once my diabetes was controlled, these episodes still happened. And I've had 3 major episodes of it in the last 3 years where I've got to the point where I can barely see. And even with the highest font on my phone, I've kind of stopped using my phone, and I have to have speech to type software and also page reader software to read me what's on the screen. And there'd been really no explanation of why this was happening, and investigations were happening, and constant eye appointments with ophthalmologists about diabetes were saying, well, that these aren't diabetic eye changes, maybe it's neurological. But a year ago was the last time I saw an ophthalmologist, and they thought that it was potentially a neurological issue. I was supposed to have an appointment, nothing happened, but then my eyes got completely better again and I could see normally, so I didn't pursue it. About 3 weeks ago, my eyes started declining again. I'd only had an eye test 2 months before when my eyes were pretty good, bar the fact that I have stigmatism, which I've always had, and I was starting to get a bit short-sighted. Is it nearsighted? Where things close were getting a bit blurry, but that's an age-related thing, that people tend to get that and need reading glasses as they get older. But there was nothing they could see that would, any issues, and my eyesight was pretty good at the time. Just shortly after, actually, I last saw my doctor, noticed waking up and my vision being quite blurry, and also almost like the colour clarity had been I have trouble with my words. Like the colours had been dulled down, like muted. It progressed to the point where I had to stop driving lessons weeks ago now, because I cannot see. I cannot read massive fonts. Everything is blurry. I can make out objects. So I can tell you that there's a cup in front of me and things like that, but there's a lot of issues. Along with that, I've been having tremors in my eyes, periods of rapid eye movement, visual disturbances, muscle spasms as well, which I've had periodically throughout my whole life. Also, issues in the past have been TIAs, or what they thought were TIAs, or stroke mimics, and actually ended up being diagnosed with a stroke, and heart issues, which clinically behaved quite weirdly. So my body would show the stress indicators that I'd had a heart attack, but yet when they tested me again, they were no longer there. And a lot of just unexplained symptoms that were just weird. And as soon as one kind of issue would go, something else would come. And including things like severe muscle weakness and spasms, like problems with balance, mobility issues, coordination, memory problems, a lot of aphasia, so not being able to recall words, slurred speech, stammers, and other issues. And they would come and go, so they would come and go, and I'd have periods of certain issues altogether, and a lot of bowel issues as well, unexplained bowel issues, where I'd have almost like more than IBS, but like Crohn's type level issues of going to the toilet 20 to 30 times a day, being hospitalised with malnutrition, because it was just like 20 to 30 times a day. Anything I ate went straight through me, chronic stomach ache, just a lot of stuff. And understandably, I mean, even myself, I started to feel like a complete hypochondriac, like, because I'm only 40, I'm not even 40 yet, and throughout basically my entire adult life, I'd had all these really severe issues, and I've been diagnosed with like a list, like almost like a shopping list of illnesses and disorders and conditions and disabilities. And I used to make jokes and say, well, maybe I've got this kind of disorder that all these things are one thing, you know. Maybe it's not that I have epilepsy and I have severe IBS, like I've never known anyone to have, that go that many times a day with IBS and end up hospitalised. The spasms I put down to autism, like even the tics. I have a lot of tics, facial tics and other tics, and I have problems controlling my eye movements. But it just, none of it made any sense, because they would come and go, and I'd have periods of almost going blind, and then my eyesight would just go back to normal. And yeah, and I've always been like, you know, I've had doctors say you're a bit of a medical mystery, but what I've also had is basically being gaslit by medical professionals pretty much my entire life, and going in with episodes of like what seemed like a stroke, or not being able to walk, or, you know, or all sorts of things really, and them saying basically it's in your head, you know, it's in your head. And I was like, you know, even to the point where when my eye problem started about 3 years ago, I rapidly lost my vision over the course of a week, and I got to the point where I had to go out holding someone's hand because I couldn't see. And even then I saw a doctor at the time who basically queried whether it was almost like hysterical blindness. At the time I was under no stress. There was no reason for that to happen. It was quite a good period in my life. And I kind of started to believe them, because I started thinking, well, how can one person have so many things wrong with them? You know, and I'm sure I've met many people in my life who have thought I'm crazy or a hypochondriac or had Munchausen's or something, you know, because I've even looked up the symptoms of Munchausen's and questioned whether I'm pretending, even though I knew what I was experiencing was real and I couldn't see. And Greg's seen me have muscle spasms and throw stuff across the room, and he's seen my eyes spasm, and all sorts. And recently I've started having adult night terrors where I'm waking up and I'm not aware of that I'm awake and I'm still dreaming, and it's quite disturbing for Greg. And so basically just all sorts of stuff really. Stuff that you could put down to like psychological issues, stuff that seemed very physical, like bowel issues, that I put down to the fact that I had a large piece of bowel removed as a child. And everything that I've ever had, all these issues have always been put down to existing stuff, or they've said, oh, it's chronic fatigue, it's fibromyalgia, it's the tics and the muscle spasms are to do with your epilepsy, or they're to do with your autism. But it seems, I mean, I'm under a top neurologist now in Newcastle, and I mean, she is one of the best in the country, and I'm having a new MRI next week, which is for my spine and now hopefully my brain as well. But almost that is to just to make sure that what they're now saying they think is wrong with me is what's wrong with me. So subsequently I had a medical appointment today. I'll try and get back on track. And they think I have what's called a functional neurological disorder. So the best way I've been told to describe it is, in your brain, things like MS and stroke are a problem with the hardware. So the actual hardware in your brain, there's an issue. What the problem with functional neurological disorder is, it's a software issue. So, you know, the hardware is all fine, but the software doesn't work. So it's a nerve disorder. Basically, my brain is telling my body that there are these things happening. So the loss of vision is real. I genuinely can't see. My eyes are working fine. The part of my brain that deals with vision and, you know, and recognizing images works fine, they think. What it is that my brain is not reading the information right and saying you can't see. So I can't see. You know, it's a really weird thing. So my brain is telling me, you know, that this is a problem. I'm going blind and I cannot see things. I cannot actually see things. It's real. It's not imagined, but it's a software issue. There is no real, you know, what they expect to see when they do the scans is clear scans. And that the reason they'll do them is to make sure it definitely isn't something like MS or, you know, motor neuron disease or anything like that, that it is this functional neurological disorder. Is that correct? Yeah. And I'm having a bit of an emotional roller coaster because while, you know, it's quite upsetting and it can cause all sorts of issues. I mean, such far and wide symptoms that's why there's a problem kind of getting it diagnosed, because it almost sounds like you're making it up, because why have you got these bowel issues one moment and then the next issue you're having is you can't walk because your legs are giving way, or you're having muscle spasms, or, you know, issues speaking, or, you know, cognitive issues. It makes it hard to diagnose because you're going and you're basically, what happens is you see different doctors for different things, don't you? And they never look at it as a whole holistic thing. It's, we'll look at you for bowel issues. We'll look at you for neurological problems, migraines, epilepsy. And the scariest part is I've been on epilepsy medication since I was a small child. And the likelihood is I don't have epileptic seizures. My seizures will not be epileptic. They will be functional seizures. They will be real. They are real seizures. My brain is telling me there's an issue and it's causing a seizure. They are not epileptic. There is no problem with the electrical activity in my brain. And I've had them since I was a child. I've been severely disabled a lot of my life. I've felt like a crazy person most of my life. Because how can one person have so many different things wrong with them that just appear and then just go as miraculously as they came? You know, how can I walk one day and almost hike a hill and I'm almost a healthy, normal person, and then a few days later I am basically severely disabled to the point I cannot walk? So I'm kind of torn between the relief of thinking that seems like what it definitely is, and that when I was making jokes about maybe this is all one thing, you know, maybe these aren't all separate things that are wrong with me. And, you know, Greg said something which, you know, it's true. It sometimes felt like I was playing medical bingo, you know, because of listing out to people when I saw medical professionals all the things that are wrong with me. I almost felt ashamed, you know, like that they were probably thinking this is all nonsense. You know, she can't possibly have all these things wrong with her. And it does cause severe pain, severe back pain. You know, I had a stress fracture, which is a real thing. It was shown on an MRI. That was nearly 3 years ago. Stress fractures typically take up to 6 months to kind of heal. I had physio. It kind of got a bit better, and then I started having a load more problems. What they also think is I was on so many opioid-based painkillers that were causing me to be in really horrific pain themselves, but it masks so much of this. And for, 4 weeks this weekend, I've been off all the opioid, you know, kind of pain relief and been put on other kind of tablets to help. And that is wonderful in the sense that I'm no longer in agonising pain, waking up feeling like I've been hit by a truck, or, you know, even my eyelids would hurt or my skin would hurt. Although that is a lot better, what it's allowed is for me to now notice all the other kind of neurological issues that I'm having, like dissociation, which I always put down PTSD. You know, I've got PTSD. Dissociation is also part of functional neurological disorder. So is anxiety disorder, because and I've always said this, I've gone to see psychiatrists and I've said, there's no trigger. I literally could sit there and suddenly feel massive wave of anxiety that like something horrific is going to happen, and I'll start hyperventilating. and it's awful, or this feeling of dread or fear that isn't kind of like the classic panic attack, but you just feel this impending doom. Symptoms of heart attacks where my heart starts going crazy, just so many things. And like I said, I sat with Greg this morning and I kept saying, do you think I'm insane? Do you think that I can see, but I'm convincing myself I'm going blind or I can't see? Because when you've seen so many doctors that have made you feel that way and dismissed everything as a mental health issue, and yeah, do you know what? There are factors of psychological issues with FND. It can be a trigger for it, but the symptoms are physical, they're real. The going blindness is real. If I can't see, I genuinely can't see. I'm not convincing myself I can't see. I have a wonderful doctor now called Dr. Hills at my surgery, and he always says to me, you're not a hypochondriac. This is real. Like, if your legs are giving way, your legs are giving way. You're not imagining this. You're not imagining the pain. You're not imagining not being able to see, or the facial tics, or the rapid eye movement that you just start having randomly. These are real things. Your brain is doing this to you. Your brain is sending these messages to make these things happen. They are real. They are real things. And years ago, they used to think there were no tests for this condition. There are now, and actual neurological tests, not anything to do with psychology, neurological tests. But the treatment is multidisciplined. There is psychological elements. Stress can make the symptoms a lot worse because, your body is all one thing. If you are stressed, it puts pressure on the brain, and therefore the brain is more likely to send these kind of missed or wrong signals or misinformation. Your brain is more likely to do that if you're stressed, and so there are psychological therapies can help, medications can help, neurological kind of therapies can help. Some people don't get better, some people get worse, some people are forever, like I have been for 30 years, so they'll have really bad symptoms and they'll kind of come and go, overlap. They'll be very disabled for periods of time in wheelchairs, then they'll have periods where they'll be a lot better. It overlaps with a lot of other neurological conditions, like MS and things like that. That's why they have to make sure that it isn't any of these things. People are misdiagnosed with it and vice versa. But when doctors don't tend to give you a load of information on a condition unless they're pretty sure that's what you've got. When I sat down and read it, it was like, wow, all these symptoms I've kind of had at one stage or another without explanation. And they would put that on the, where you would be discharged and it would say no medical explanation on it. Like, they don't understand. But I was clearly having a real seizure. I was clearly, having facial tics or feeling like a slurred speech and paralysis down one side, limb weakness. They were real things, but there was no explanation. Tests were coming up clear, things like that. It can cause digestive issues, just basically anything that is nerve related, which is pretty much your entire body, because your brain obviously controls everything that happens, through these links, all your functioning. Sorry, I'm just laughing at the bunny jumping onto a haystack. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. So yeah, basically your brain controls everything. And if my brain is broken, for want of a better word, and it's going, hey, there's a problem here, you're blind, or hey, I'm going to send messages that, to give you facial tics or to make your legs not work properly, that's a real thing, So, yeah. So after basically 30 years of kind of being made to feel like a crazy person by majority of medical professionals, and believing myself that I am just a crazy person, believing myself that even symptoms like being hospitalised, where I was going to the toilet 20, 30 times a day and I have malnutrition, was a psychological issue, like that I was kind of creating that issue myself, even that, and I mean, statistically and, you know, through experience, women are classically dismissed a lot with a lot of things because we're seen as hysterical and over-exaggerating and dramatic, and, you know, where actually tests have shown that women probably have a higher pain threshold than men in general, and, you know, higher tolerance to illness before that, you know, they'll complain about it. But typically when it's actually comes down to being seen or treated in A&E or urgent cares or going for doctor's appointments, they're typically dismissed, a lot of symptoms, and put down to mental health issues or, you know, that sort of thing. So I am kind of like in two places. I'm on a bit of a roller coaster today. So there's an element of relief in the sense of, wow, you know, this might be a thing. This, when I, you know, said that maybe it's all one disorder, maybe it is. They're pretty sure. I have an MRI a week Friday to check for, like, you know, classic things like MS and lesions or whatever else, a brain tumour, which they really highly doubt it would be anything like that. And then I see this doctor, is it Freeman? What hospital am I at on Wednesday?
Freeman. Yeah.
Freeman. Yeah, so I see like a leading neurologist who I actually started originally seeing for sleep disorder, which is probably part of this condition as well.
Yeah. Neurosurgeon.
One of the best neurologists in the whole country. Yeah. She was described today as basically a Dr. House, as in she may not come across as the friendliest, the most chattiest doctor, but she will find out what's wrong with you. But unlike Dr. House, probably won't accidentally kill you a few times and in the process of finding out what's wrong with you. So, but as in the, you know, amazing mind, and we'll find out what's wrong with you. So, yeah, it's a bit of a long recording because I had a lot to say. I mean, I had 30 years of medical stuff to kind of say and explain. Before I go, what I'm going to do is, because they think it actually may be more common than the amount of people that are diagnosed, so I thought I'd kind of run down kind of what it is, like, rather than my own words, you know, and the symptoms of it and what can be the symptoms of it. So I send my notes up because otherwise I won't remember half of it. So, yeah. So functional neurological disorder, FND, is a medical condition in which there is a problem with the functioning of the nervous system and how the brain and body sends or receives signals, rather than a structural disease such as multiple sclerosis or stroke. FND can encompass a wide variety of neurological symptoms, including limb weakness or seizures. One way of thinking about FND is looking at a bit like a software problem on a computer. The hardware is not damaged, but there is a problem with the software, and so the computer doesn't work properly. Conventional structural MRI brain scans are usually normal, unless the person has another neurological condition. Functional MRI are starting to provide early evidence for how the brain goes wrong in FND. FND patients can experience a wide range of and combination of symptoms that are physical, sensory, and or cognitive. The most common include motor dysfunction, functional limb weakness and paralysis, movement disorders including tremor, spasm, jerky movements, and problems walking, functional speech including whispering, slurred or stuttered speech, which I've had for a very long time. Sensory dysfunction, including sensory disturbances like altered sensations, numbing, tingling, burning sensations. Functional visual symptoms, including loss of vision and double vision. Episodes of altered awareness, disassociation, non-epileptic seizures, blackouts, faints. They can look just like epileptic seizures, obviously, but that they're not caused by epilepsy. Symptoms often fluctuate and may vary from day to day or be present all the time. Some patients may experience substantial or complete remission followed by sudden relapse. Other physical and psychological symptoms are comically, I can't say, my brain wants to keep saying comically and it's not, commonly experienced by patients with FND, but they may not be present in everyone. These include chronic pain, fatigue, sleep problems, memory problems, bowel and bladder symptoms, anxiety and depression. Basically, I could tick every single one of them at some point in my life either coming or going or being intermittent, which is the same thing, or having them at one point at least, you know, or permanently. So yeah, it explains an awful lot. I'm almost certain myself now that this is what's wrong with me. I am having problems with my speech at the moment. You might be able to tell. I'm having what I would call what's it called? Sorry, I'm sorry about the tapping. That's an autism thing. I'm stimming. What's the word? Remission and relapse. I'm having a relapse of some quite severe symptoms at the moment, with problems with speaking and walking and balance and muscle spasms, and you know, a lot of other rapid eye movements, and what they call in also the other eye twitches, and you know, a lot of other stuff, including the fact that I've basically lost my vision almost. I can make out shapes and objects and things, but you know, it's very bad. But yeah, so this is what it looks like I have. Feel free to Google it. Feel free to ask me questions. I mean, this is all quite new to me. I'll do my best to answer. I'm a bit of an emotional wreck at the moment. I feel very agitated, and I'm also having not like scary, like aggressive or potential to hurt anyone, but I'm losing my rag really easily, which is very unlike me, and I've had some quite severe behavioural changes recently. People might have even noticed that online, me having rants like about people, which is not something I do. I've had quite bad rows where I've been quite nasty online with people who kind of deserved it, because they were saying quite terrible things, you know, that I would consider damaging to other people. But it's unlike me to kind of go to that level of name calling or really losing my shit like I have. Wouldn't you say, Greg, the kind of things I've said recently to people? Yeah. So it can cause issues like that as well, controlling your you know, emotional disturbances. So yeah, I'm a bit delicate. Be gentle with me. I'm pretty sure this is it. When I have these MRIs and some other tests, this should rule out kind of things that it might be the kind of overlap with this, but I'm pretty sure that this is what I have: FND, functional neurological disorder. So, thank you for listening. I'm sorry I couldn't show my face. Probably better for everyone because I feel horrific. So, I'm going to put a pretty picture over it or something. And I hope, So, thank you for listening to all this because it's quite long. But I really appreciate it. So, that's it. That's it, I think. So, yeah, signing off. Thanks for listening.